I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, ERs overcrowded, surgery backlogs thousands of names long. This week, Canada's premiers will meet in Ottawa with the Prime Minister to hammer out a healthcare deal.
If coming out of this agreement, we don't see a commitment to hiring more nurses and doctors and frontline healthcare workers, the agreement will be a failure.
One of the top priorities in Ontario, hiring more nurses, doctors, and support staff. Plus,
we need a space to continue what we're doing, and we would like to do more than just giving food now.
A food bank in Durham Region sees demand skyrocket beyond its capacity, forcing it to close doors. It comes as food banks in the area also struggle to keep up. The town and other groups vow to support those in need.
It's important to show that we are crafting these narratives and sharing narratives of Black-owned businesses, Black artists, Black community members.
Venues across Ontario mark the first weekend of Black History Month, including celebrating the rich and diverse work of Black creatives.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Thanks for being here with us. The healthcare system on the brink. It's something we've reported many times on this show over the last few years. Crowded ERs, some departments even closing temporarily because there's just not enough staff. As Clara Pasica shows us, premiers from across the country will face the Prime Minister this week to hammer out healthcare funding.
After nearly 3 pandemic years that has caused surgery backlogs and healthcare workers pushed beyond their limits, the premiers are heading to Ottawa tomorrow, hoping a multi-billion-dollar increase in health transfers from the federal government to tackle the problem awaits them. Ontario's Health Minister Sylvia Jones is clear what she believes a good deal would look like.
A lot of people believe it is a 50-50 partnership with our federal government, and it's not. We're now down at literally receiving 22% of our budget comes from the feds. We want to increase that to 32%.
The federal government has signaled a commitment is coming, but how much? We don't yet know.
We would like to be speaking about dollars and numbers now, but for 2 reasons. No, we want to wait until Tuesday, therefore quite soon, for that to happen. First, because we're going to focus on results.
Results Duclos says might look like better access to care, investing in workers, and mental health. But he also acknowledges a one-size-fits-all approach may not work.
We need to be flexible and working in a manner which is acknowledging the fact that my colleagues, health ministers, don't need to invest their resources exactly in the same ways.
Critical voices are clear what success looks like to them.
If coming out of this agreement, we don't see a commitment to hiring more nurses and doctors and frontline healthcare workers, the agreement will be a failure.
Ontario healthcare workers say the need for more workers is high in the province. Dr. Peter Bell, a family doctor in Eastern Ontario, says he'd like to retire but feels he can't.
It's estimated that we need another 1,700 primary care providers. It could be a mix of physicians and nurse practitioners. But then in addition, you need to have the support services. So if you could find those people, would the ministry be able to afford to pay them from the current budget?
The Registered Nurses Association of Ontario wants to see at least 10% of new funding go toward hiring workers.
Primary care is the center leg of our table. Without robust primary care, the table will continue to be wobbly forever.
The premiers will meet in Ottawa tomorrow and with the Prime Minister on Tuesday, where we'll learn how much money the federal government is willing to commit and what it will mean for Ontario. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
Still in health news, the province of Ontario says it's time to axe the fax. That's right, the fax machine. According to the Ministry of Health, Ontario healthcare providers send an estimated 152 million faxes every year. You know that sound. Premier Doug Ford is promising to phase out faxes in healthcare over the next 5 years. The 1980s machine is still used largely because the province's doctors, hospitals, labs, and pharmacies use a variety of different systems for electronic medical records. Many of those systems can't communicate with each other the way faxes can. The Ontario government plans to replace faxing with, you guessed it, digital communication. An update now to a story we brought you last night. Metrolinx has agreed to temporarily pause tree removal at Osgoode Hall. Ontario's Superior Court has granted an interim injunction that was filed by the Law Society of Ontario. Metrolinx started taking down parts of centuries-old trees yesterday. Work, it says, is necessary to make way for a future subway stop along the Ontario line. Local groups pushing back, demanding the transit agency reconsider that plan. The interim injunction will be in place until midnight, February 10th, unless it's extended by the court. Now, we did hear from Metrolinx today this statement saying it's been engaging with communities on this project for over 2 years. It goes on to say it met with the Law Society 17 times prior to the start of the work to avoid unnecessary delays that will cause significant financial consequences to taxpayers and commuters.
Metrolinx, oh Metrolinx, how can we guide your action?
Meantime, some community members gathering to protest at Moss Park today. That's another location where crews are removing trees this weekend to make way for another Ontario Line station. Police are launching a murder investigation after a pedestrian was killed in a hit and run in East Toronto. It happened just before 4 a.m. near Danforth and Cedarvale. Police said the victim walking along the sidewalk when the suspect struck him with a vehicle. The driver took off. The victim, a 25-year-old man, was taken to hospital where he died. To Durham Region, where police found 2 people dead inside a house in Bowmanville. We have video from a neighborhood near Middle Road and William Fair Drive. Police say they got a call for service at about 2:15 Saturday and found 2 adults with obvious signs of trauma. Police aren't releasing any more details yet about the victims, but they're asking anyone with information or video footage to contact them. Well, still in Durham Region, a food bank in Whitby says it had no choice but to shut down this weekend. As we showed you here last week, neighbors complained to the town about noise and garbage. As Tyler Cheese shows us, the food bank, like many in the area, are struggling to keep up with growing demand.
Marcia White has been running the Kendallwood Church Food Bank in Whitby for years. But on Friday, she received news that left her feeling a range of emotions.
Shocked, disappointed, but it is what it is.
The church that housed the food bank informed White that she'd need to find a new space.
Bottom line is, we have outgrown the church's basement and we need a space to continue what we're doing. And we would like to do more than just giving food now.
When Kendallwood first opened, it served around 20 to 30 families, but over the past few years, that's grown to around 1,000 people a week.
The clients have become like family. So we know our clients, we develop a relationship with our clients. They know us.
The closure has left others in the community scrambling to make sure that those families are still able to get everything they need.
We're going to be working in the next few days, especially in the next week, to make sure that anyone they were serving in the community does get support.
He says that food banks all across the region have been struggling to keep up with increased demand in recent years.
We're just seeing sort of a broad challenge around just being able to scale really quickly, because that's really what's happened. You know, we've seen this demand rise rather quickly in our community. So we're really just, how do we keep up with that?
Whitby's mayor has set a meeting for tomorrow morning to discuss the closure and to develop a plan to help the families affected.
We are at a time right now where there's a need within our community, one that we have not seen, I would say, in a very, very long time, if it has, and we need to all step up together to be a part of it, to be the solution.
As for White, she's hoping for a new space that will be big enough to serve all of her community's needs.
Somebody must know something somewhere that has a commercial space that we can go. As soon as we get that, we can pack up and we can get going. We can start up next week if we find a space tomorrow.
Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Whitby.
Victoria Fenn Alvarado here with us tonight. You know, earlier today kind of felt almost spring-like compared to such the cold temperatures we've had recently.
Oh yeah, compared to the Friday, we were experiencing like minus 20 something degrees, right, Shannon? Today, we finally got to the plus digits. Some places experience about 7 degrees today. So a good switch up from what we experienced before. The cold temperatures are going to feel more like a distant memory. Speaking of memories, actually, it was Groundhog Day just a few days ago, and I was reporting live in Wyerton at the Wyerton Willie Festival. And I got to experience firsthand Wyerton Willie calling for an early spring. Now, the little rodent was not messing around. It feels almost like spring, like you said, Shannon. So mixed with the mild Gulf air and the warm Atlantic flow, we're going to experience warmer conditions. In fact, even today, Muskoka warmed up 40 degrees in just 40 hours. Meanwhile, Uxbridge warmed up 36 degrees in 36 hours. So it shows just how fast we're warming up. Right now, these are our current conditions, and even at 11 o'clock at night, we're still above the freezing mark. Typically, we're usually around the minus 2 degree mark, and by Monday morning, we're going to be minus 3, and by the afternoon, getting to 0 degrees. But Tuesday, that is the real forecast. When I return, we're going to talk more about these icons. Yes, rain is on the way.
An icon, Wyerton Willie, I want to hear more about that too. Thanks, Victoria. To North Bay next, where Canadore College hosted its 34th annual powwow this weekend. The theme, supporting one another, recognizing just how challenging the pandemic has been for so many people. As you can see, dance leaders marching to the beat of the drums to kick off the event. This is the first in-person powwow since 2020. It was organized by Canadore's First Peoples Centre, the event celebrating Indigenous students. Lots of events happening around the province to kick off the first weekend of Black History Month, including at the Spadina Museum in Toronto. An exhibit called Dismantle reimagines the museum through an Afrofuturism lens.
To reimagine this space as though it was owned by Mrs. Louisa Pipkin. Mrs. Louisa Pipkin was a real-life person. She was a washerwoman who worked in this house for the Austins, the real-life owners of it, and she was a washerwoman here. What we wanted to do was we wanted to take some steps to decolonize the space and maybe inspire other people who maybe might not be interested in coming to a space like this to come in and learn some history.
It includes soundscapes, ceramics, and visual art from Canadian artists from the Afro-Caribbean diaspora. There are painted portraits of some of Toronto's most influential Black personalities, including Director X and Toronto Raptors players, among others. Dismantle is on until May. The Art Gallery of Ontario is another venue in Toronto marking Black History Month. We had a chance to check out some of the special programming underway.
The new acquisitions by, this has featured 9 artists and that have been newly acquired by the Art Gallery of Ontario under the umbrella of our new department, Arts of Global Africa and the Diaspora. That is on Saturday. We have Rise Edutainment, which is joining us, really excited for 3 Fridays of the month. We have Molly Johnson, jazz great, a legend really, for another Friday. And then to cap off the month, we have Black Owned Toronto, which will have a marketplace on the concourse level with 25 vendors, all Black businesses.
I love it. So yeah, music, dance, art, all the things, some shopping in there as well. It's all about elevating Black artists. Tell us why the AGO wanted to have a full month of programming.
Right, so it was important for us to mark the month to show that we are here as Black folks, as Black, even Black staff, and being on leadership team at the Art Gallery of Ontario, I felt it was part of my responsibility, something that I really wanted to do. And so that's why you will see a range of programming across all audiences. We welcome everyone, but it really is a call. I want Black History Month at the AGO to be that mark on someone's calendar. There's so much happening in our great city, but I want the AGO to be a destination spot. It's like, oh, I want to come for Rise. I want to come for Verlaine. I want to come to the marketplace. That's what I really wanted. And it's important to show that we are crafting these narratives and sharing narratives of Black-owned businesses, Black artists, Black community members, and these partnerships as well. These relationships take time to build, and we've done that. And so that's what we wanted to show with the Marking Black History Month.
I'm the curatorial assistant for the Arts of Global Africa and Diaspora department. This is kind of our dedicated gallery space within the AGO. So You Look Beautiful, like that studio photography in West and Central Africa was kind of I mean, I recently started, so this was the first project that I saw from start to finish, and it traces the it serves as an introduction in the history of studio photography in countries in West and Central Africa, as the title suggests. Yeah, so highlights a few photographers that you'll see inside the space.
Yeah, okay, well we have to go inside and see it now, so we're gonna head in.
So this is probably one of my favorite areas in the exhibition. I think it's a perfect example of how we wanted to activate the space. These works are by a Malayan photographer who was one of the pioneers of studio photography in West Africa. You'll notice that the frames are quite colorful in contrast to the black and white images, and that also not only speaks to the collaboration that takes place between the photographer and his sitters, but also in terms of a community. In many of these cases, we're looking at portraits of friends and families and individuals as well. So there's a few moments. We have a few table cases, and you can see there's an image of a little boy who's posed next to a Christmas tree, and then we've kind of paired it with another image of who I would assume is his mother, with him kind of guiding him where to stand. And you just get a glimpse of what that environment looked like. It's never easy to have a child pose in front of a camera. So there's those little, those quirky moments that I find really endearing and intimate as well.
What was once old is new again at the University of Guelph-Humber. The 5-story wall of plants looks imposing from the outside, but it's actually helping clean the air on the inside.
The wall behind us is 57 feet tall, 5 stories tall, 30 feet wide, and it consists of over 6,000 tropical plants.
Where did all this soot come from?
When we first got in here, it was a bunch of brown media with really sad-looking plants. Well, the existing living wall was 20 years old. Something had happened during the COVID shutdowns where it wasn't being serviced and the wall started to fall apart. There's 600 modules in the wall. Each are 17 inches wide, 24 inches tall, and they hold 13 plants in a hydroponic medium. Building the wall was a challenge only as far as sourcing 6,000 plants in the winter. We're actively purifying air inside the building and dispersing that fresh air throughout the HVAC system.
The air intakes are behind the wall, so there's some big ducts right behind there, and they suck air through the wall, and as it goes through the wall, the air gets cleaned on the roots of the plants, and it removes toxins and all sorts of things like that. And the water dripping through humidifies the air as well.
People need to know that we have things called volatile organic compounds that are floating around in our environment. And these things come from carpeting, paint on the walls, ink from printers. And those things float around and we absorb them as humans. The foliage actually absorbs all of those volatile organic compounds. What better thing could we possibly have for young minds to really have a healthy environment to learn in?
The wall is very representative of student life at the university. It's very vibrant and it's very lively. And even when it wasn't here, it was almost reflective of the pandemic and the effect that it had on students. So having it back and running is like, hey, we're back to normal. Events are on campus, people are here. Be happy that you're here, and it makes learning a lot more enjoyable.
We are holding our biggest and boldest Capes for Kids kickoff event that we have ever done, because this year we plan to make world history by setting a Guinness Book of World Records.
Capes for Kids is Hull and Bloorview Hospital's main fundraising campaign. It's raised more than $4 million for research, education, and care at the hospital. This is their 7th year of fundraising. This time, they're partnering with Raptors 905 and Pascal Siakam's PS43 Foundation.
At the end of the day, man, they're going through real life situations, and they get to see you and they smile and they're happy, it just makes you, kind of put you in your place. So that's why I kind of like doing this type of things, because it just puts everything in perspective.
The goal for this year is to raise $1 million and have some fun too. They're going to attempt to break the world record for the largest gathering of people wearing capes. The capes are meant to spark conversations about childhood disability and inclusion. Raptors 905 will host the event tomorrow at their game at Paramount Fine Food Center. All attendees will receive a red cape and they'll be instructed to wear it during the break between the first and second quarter of the game. Victoria, we know there's special guest appearances at that game and tickets are still available if people want to go. It'll be such a fun night.
That looks like an incredible night, honestly.
Yes.
How do I get involved? How do I go?
Right? I know, we all need capes. But listen, hey, you had a big deal covering the big story of will we have more spring, more winter, what's happening?
It was great. Honestly, I can't even express the experience that I was there for. It was really cool, actually. All the other groundhogs across Canada said 6 more weeks of winter, and Wyerton Willie was the only one that called for an early spring. And it's honestly kind of like a joke now between me and the other video journalists across Canada, because Wyerton Willie's the OG. He's the winning one, right? Like, he is the one who predicts the future, in my opinion. Anyway, speaking of future, we have a couple storm tracks possibilities for Thursday, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Let's talk about Tuesday now. So Tuesday, I mentioned some rain is on its way, the spring-like conditions. By noon on Tuesday, we're going to be experiencing almost widespread rainfall across the GTA. Through Barrie, you could experience more of a mixing pattern. That means perhaps freezing rain, some wet snow conditions, but up north, Parry Sound, Cottage Country, we are going to experience more snow, and that snowfall carries on even into Thursday. Now, Thursday, I have 3 storm tracks for you, and I don't necessarily want to call it a big storm, but it is going to impact travel if you are north, specifically through Cottage Country, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie. If you are in the GTA, however, track 1, colder conditions, we could experience some snow, but light snow. Track 2, mild conditions, little to no snow. And track 3, just a dusting of snow. It's pretty far away to tell, but closer to the date, we will know more details as to which track it's going to be.
Okay, thanks, Victoria, and we'll be watching you for those details.